Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells all regarding family court, criminal court, and other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me, my books, and blogs on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. And if you do have a tale to tell, you're welcome to contact me there as well on dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I have two brand new guests on. I have Jackie Sample here with me, and we are waiting for Roy Johnson, and they're both from DuPage, Illinois. Now, Jackie had been repeatedly and unreasonably threatened with jail by Judge Orel after stating her spouse filed false financial affidavits and for allowing a reporter to interview her. Then Judge Alvarado unreasonably threatened Jackie for trying to present an emergency motion and blocked her from speaking. She issued an unlawful order directing her to exchange documentation with withdrawn opposing counsel, Berman LLP. She abruptly recused herself after noted that these incidents that Jackie reported. Judge Orel, Cerne, Alvarado, and Cerne all accepted falsified financial affidavits from Jackie's spouse, although she has submitted their joint income tax statements, cryptocurrency documentation, and bank statements showing deposits, documentation for business partnerships, and more. Judge Cerne removed himself from the case after Jackie noted him not allowing her to present her motion, representing her spouse from the bench, and more. None of them enforced valid court orders while her spouse violated them, unlawfully seized their multi-million-dollar estate, abruptly stopped paying maintenance, then fled the jurisdiction, absconding with their assets around October of 2024. Judge Orel ignored altered orders by opposing counsel, Bierman LLP. He abruptly recused himself weeks before his forced retirement. Judge Alvarado and Cerne facilitated withdrawn counsel Bierman LLP to participate in court proceedings, including the May 15th, 2025 unlawful trial. Despite Jackie's spouse, Dr. Madison Sample, being a no-show in court, a police report confirming he fled the jurisdiction to the Philippines to avoid court. No judge enforced lawful orders, not even the order he violated for his in-person appearance. Jackie, your story is incredible.
It's very bizarre, isn't it?
It is so bizarre because Judge Orel was forced to retire December of 2024, and somehow he was blaming you for that.
Yeah, he was very upset with me during court, saying, "You got what you wanted. Now you don't have to talk about me anymore or complain about me, and you should be happy now." So he's angry that I'm reporting his actions.
Well, I always do. I always tell people on this podcast, even when I'm like, I court watch, and if a judge's actions are unlawful, unethical, write them up. I have a complaint here that I'm waiting to get some more information on so I can file it.
Mhm.
This is really, I just don't know what to think of these judges. There are some good judges out there, but there are so many that are not.
There's so many. I've encountered four judges in DuPage. Judge number three removed himself from the case after I reported him. But then he showed up again as judge number five. Very strange. And then he dismissed the divorce after not following any of, like the Constitution as it applies to me,
Mhm.
not enforcing court orders for 2.5 years, accepting fraudulent financial affidavits from my husband. He abruptly dismisses the divorce and left me married to someone that where the court system, they're facilitating domestic abuse against me.
Oh, oh, I'm so sorry. So you're still technically married.
I am still married to Dr. Sample.
how can they just dismiss a divorce like that? I mean, it would be logical just to, okay, if he fled the country, just file the divorce and just end it.
Or even, let's hold him in contempt and
Well, that
let's,
too.
flag his passport. Because in the meantime, Dr. Sample gets to travel abroad across the world using a US passport, but violating US, court orders. It
Right.
doesn't make sense.
No, they're not enforcing any of their orders.
None,
Uh,
none.
I
I
said,
wonder what's so special about my husband that he gets the way with, violating court orders, dissipating over 700,000 in 1 year's time, which was reported to all of the judges. Well, judge number 2 through judge number 4 in the fifth assignment. This was reported, and yet my husband gets to travel freely.
uh, well, I don't, I don't know how they're ever going to get him back. I mean, when does his passport expire?
I'm not sure, but if they were to, issue a bench warrant, they can flag his passport. So when he's traveling, he wouldn't have the freedom to travel in and out of the US. He just wouldn't have the freedom. I've even tried to get a TRO. We can, put an injunction on, accounts, things of that nature, but the judges won't do any of that. They're so protective of my husband, Dr. Sample, and I don't know why.
He must have paid them off.
Something has happened. I don't think judges are going to do this free. And it's not a coincidence that all four judges have practiced the same pattern of protecting my husband, Dr. Madison Sample. It couldn't possibly be a coincidence.
No, no, because all of this, financial in this, you know, y- you submitted the income tax statements and cryptocurrency documentation.
I did.
All this, the bank statements showing deposits, documentation for business partnerships and more. So what happens to his business partnerships? Do you know what happened to those?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I would like to know.
Because he left those people hanging, I would think.
Well, I think he's still practicing business for sure. I don't think
Mm,
he's given that stuff up. I just don't have access to it. I pleaded with the court to hire a forensic accountant. I just needed some of my money to hire one. Judge Orel appointed a financial expert because I was giving him so much, kickback on, we're not broke. We just built a $3 million house. We can't possibly be broke. We both make good money. So on my behalf, he hired or appointed a financial expert. It turns out the financial expert was a divorce attorney with no experience in accounting, absolutely none. So this person created some false reports to collaborate with, their false narrative of Dr. Sample is being broke.
oh,
I've never heard of a broke anesthesiologist, have you?
no,
Not one
never.
that's the chair of the department and a business guy and other business assets. And, we invested quite a bit in digital currency, cryptocurrency.
Hmm.
I'm aware of our assets. I just wasn't aware that Madison would take them all and hide all the money.
And of course, you don't know where he even hid it, probably overseas.
Well, I did turn in a bank statement where he transferred money over to a bank in Australia, and I turned that into the courts because that would be dissipating. It also would qualify as wire fraud, which is a felony
Hmm.
because these things were done after the court order was issued. I also have the paperwork where he crossed state lines to Michigan because we're in Illinois. So he went to Michigan and closed out joint accounts. I believe that's also a wire fraud
Hmm.
when you're crossing state lines. So I did submit all this stuff to the judges, to the court. Nothing. And they did nothing. I filed a rule to show cause multiple times,
Right.
along with supporting documentation. I was repeatedly told that Madison wasn't served. During one point, Madison did have an attorney. So if you file documents and he has an attorney, Madison is served.
Mhm.
And I continued to serve Madison in the same manner that his own attorney served him via email at his home, his last known address. My service is the same way that his attorneys had served him for all
Right,
the 2 years. But yet the judges told me I didn't serve him, which I have proof that I did serve him.
right.
So then I asked Judge Cerne, because Judge Cerne was adamant about that Madison was never served. And he kept saying this to me in court. I said, I have proof of service. He was served. So since Judge Cerne was so adamant about Madison didn't receive his service, I asked him, how do you know? Did Madison tell you this? How would he know Madison wasn't served? If I'm telling you Madison is served, you have to take my word and I give you an affidavit and proof of service, you would have to take my word for it.
And we're
But
all here.
we're all here except for Madison, right?
Right.
So he repeatedly said Madison wasn't served. So I filed a FOIA request for ex parte communication against Judge Cerne. That was
Hmm.
never answered. And my question is, how does Judge Cerne know that Madison wasn't served? Why does he keep saying Madison wasn't served? And of course, they never answered. They never responded.
And they should. Uh, that's just, it's just so disappointing. People are trying to get their divorces completed, and it's taken
Absolutely.
them years and years.
Absolutely. 2.5 years is going on 3 years for me. It's going on 3 years where they've allowed a man to commit acts of domestic violence, domestic abuse, financial abuse. Um, I'm at a loss for, like, my properties have gone into foreclosure. Every property that I owned before I met him, every property we own together is in foreclosure. I face repeated, utility shutoffs. My water shut off. My, you know, gas is going to be cut off. I face health issues, declining health. I was hospitalized for about a week, a month ago,
Mm.
for some health issues that are worsening. Madison cut off my health insurance. And guess what? The judges said nothing. The judges are aware of my health issues. They're aware that my health issues have worsened, yet they are more concerned with protecting Madison and not holding Madison in contempt.
See,
Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like these judges don't ever hold anyone in contempt. I mean, they'll threaten it, but then they'll give the person a slap on the wrist. So,
I will see. I can see if a person maybe disobeyed the court order once or twice, but we're talking about a man that disobeyed or violated the court order from the very beginning of his issuance, and to the tune of 700 and some thousand in 1 year, with many entries in this bank statement. Also, someone that just blew off the judges and not show up to court, someone that turned in falsified financial affidavits on 3 different occasions that I've reported, someone that perjured himself on the witness stand. So for someone to commit that many violations in one case, and 4 judges are aware of it, but not one judge will address any of the issues, that cannot be a coincidence. That's very coordinated, very calculated, and very
mhm.
coordinated.
Because the judge, I mean, I'm not a lawyer or anything, but you would think he would freeze his assets. So when he's stuck in the Philippines, you know, no money there, he can't.
Uh,
I mean,
well,
I don't know
well,
why they didn't do that.
I don't know why they didn't put a freeze on his passport. I
Right.
alerted the court that he was planning on going to the Philippines and taking all of our assets with him, because at that point he had already closed every account and locked me out financially. And he was in control of the money, but he was still here. So I sent emails to my then attorney at the time. I alerted the court because I found information for, I guess, some dating sites for the Philippines. Maybe he's looking for a new wife. Some of the paperwork read. So I did turn this documentation in, and they just ignored it and nothing was done. Then a year later, he takes off and goes to the Philippines. He comes back and he takes off again. So he's got like an open, welcoming,
Yeah.
you know, just come and go as you want, Dr. Madison Sample.
And that's not fair to you.
No.
I don't know. Could this be a bias with racism, do you think?
I believe 100% racism is added. There's sexism, racism,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely believe that my husband paid some money to someone at the beginning of this divorce. This divorce started with Judge Kenton Scarn. At the very beginning, Judge Scarn was attempting to just take my house from me before any discoveries were ever issued or ordered. Judge Scarn wanted to take my house and order the sale of my house. How would you know to order the sale of a house if you haven't looked at the discovery? And by the way, I was very confident that we don't have to sell my house because I know what our assets are. But instead of looking at our joint taxes, our bank statements, Judge Kenton Scarn just refused to let me present my motion in court. I had an attorney represent me once, and Judge Scarn just shut him down and wouldn't let him present an emergency motion. And knowing I have health issues that are at stake, Judge Scarn ignored that and moved forward. So I filed for a motion for substitution, and he granted it. It was nice of him to grant it. I started making too much noise and too many complaints. I also started mentioning that my husband had pretty much paid Judge Kenton Scarn.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get me out of his courtroom, he released me over to Judge Orel. And that's when all hell really started with Judge Orel.
Right. And he's you know, to find both of you with Roy when he gets here,
Mhm.
having the same judge with these horrible problems. Have you found any other victims? Have you talked to anyone else?
I've read a number of complaints, but I haven't talked to them. So I've looked up a site where people have made complaints. So many people are terrified to come out and speak out about what the judges are doing to them. They're afraid of retaliation. Um, there are attorneys that are afraid to speak out. I once had an attorney tell me that he would never take a case with Judge Orel because Judge Orel retaliates, and he would never take a case. I've actually had a couple of attorneys guide me on how to file a complaint against the judges, but they won't, openly talk about it, unfortunately.
Oh,
So, pro se litigants like myself, we don't have, the knowledge of an attorney. We're left on our own trying to read and understand the law and protect ourselves. And when you do have an attorney, just like in my case, the attorney was really no help to me because he was too frightened of the judge. Or then I've had attorneys that actually worked with the judge. So I've had both. I've had attorneys work with the
mhm.
judge and work for my spouse far more than they worked for me. Then I've had attorneys too afraid to do anything and they just back out of the case.
That doesn't say too much for their profession. Who would want to be an attorney if you have to be afraid of the judge?
They value that brotherhood and the money they make from, their clients.
But
Um,
if you're an ethical attorney, okay, maybe I should have reworded that.
that's different.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Those are hard to find.
Right. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, those are hard to find. But we have to do something. This has got to change.
Right.
I'm constantly advocating for people to speak up, put it in writing, and don't just make a complaint. Research the law codes that go with your complaint, because
Mhm.
many of these judges, they are violating constitutional rights, and they do it as easy as drinking a glass of water. That's
Right.
just so standard. You look in all these courtrooms, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a judge violating someone's constitutional rights, their due process, and they think nothing of it because we, the people, we don't even recognize sometimes when it's happening to us. And when we do recognize it, we're too afraid to speak up and talk about it. Like I
That
just recently filed a lawsuit against all of the judges in DuPage County and my husband. and I filed it under color of law,
Hmm.
1983. These judges, they have, committed some criminal acts like that falls within a RICO case.
Hmm.
They definitely colluded on accepting fraudulent financial affidavits. It's all coordinated why they wouldn't enforce any of the court orders. So I've been, reporting them, looking up law codes, applying them. But it's so hard to get another judge to hold state judges accountable.
It is also like when I report a judge, I also look at the judicial canons that they're
Yeah.
blowing off too.
Mhm.
You know, it's really a shame.
Absolutely, absolutely. My federal judge is being very protective of the state judges. So I just recently filed a motion to disqualify her for
Mhm.
cause. I'll give you an example. We had a hearing a week ago, and the federal judge, her name is Judge Andrea Wood. She started off presenting my case as though she were me, which is very odd. I have an emergency motion, emergency issues, and the judge in my place is carrying on as though she's me. And then when she's done, she turns the floor over to opposing counsel as though I don't exist.
Right. She didn't let you speak at all.
Not during that time. I waited till they were finished because I try not to interrupt. It was very hard. And then afterwards, I told her I'd like to present my own emergency motion. I have emergency issues that weren't discussed between you guys. Here are my emergency issues. So, but she did cut me off a number of times and she didn't let me present all of my motions. Um, and she came up with the reason that she couldn't help me on emergency issues because of my pending divorce in DuPage. I don't have a pending divorce in DuPage, and I did state that for the record.
Hmm.
I have stated that in the record. So she's fully aware. Then she assigns opposing counsel the duty to check out my divorce in DuPage. So she's giving the opposing attorney directives to bring back information for my divorce so that she can deny my motion. It's just done out in the open, like,
Right. They're so emboldened, brazen.
yeah, it's just absolutely insane. And then I submitted a motion so that she could accept service from my husband, Madison Sample.
Mhm.
I know that typically you have to give them the service, but it's impossible if someone's hiding in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So we had a hearing July 16th. We had determined Madison is hiding in the Philippines. There's a court order demanding that he show up. He didn't show up in state court. He's not showing up in federal court. So, can I just, can we get the special service approved? She said, well, it looks like you've served him. Let me give that some thought and I'll put it in the order. Well, she didn't put it in the order. She totally ignored it. So this was July 16th. Here we are over a month later, August 25th. The issue is up again. Will you accept service? We go through the same steps. And she put in the order that she'll take it under consideration.
Oh my gosh.
Why is she protecting my husband from coming into court? First, it was the state judges. Now it's the federal judge.
Hmm.
Every judge is protecting my husband, Dr. Madison Sample. Like, who is Dr. Sample? I want to know, who is he? What
Right.
hold does he have over these judges while they're all protecting him and
Oh,
not accepting a special service? I've gone out of my way and served this man every which way possible. At his last known address, hand delivered, mail, certified, which I have proof, hand delivered to his P.O. box, mailed it, which I have proof. I've emailed it to him. Every which way possible, I've completed those services time and time again. And she will, consider it. It's under advisement. But in the meantime, if Madison isn't here, how can I get my health insurance? How can I get my assets to pay my utilities to have running water? I don't have money for food sometimes. Why do I have to go on welfare to get money for food when we have millions, but the judge won't hold my husband accountable, even though I'm filing a rule to show cause, I'm filing all these correct motions? I don't get it.
yeah. He must have paid them off. That's my guess.
I wonder how much. What do you
Yeah.
think something like this is the going rate for?
Ah, did they make, I wonder if these judges have made any purchases like a new car or a boat or something.
I want to know how much they have in cryptocurrency. I
Yeah.
want to check that out. That's an easy way to pay people,
Hmm.
maybe not so traceable.
Ah,
I would love to know. Yeah.
yeah.
There's got to be a reason why the state court judges wouldn't bring Madison into court. They wouldn't hold him in contempt. They wouldn't issue a bench warrant. There's got to be a reason this federal judge, she's doing the same thing. She's following the same pattern as the state judges. They
And this,
will not bring my husband into court. How does he get away with not showing up to court and judges are going out of their way to protect him?
right. And this is Judge Andrea Wood in the federal court.
Judge Andrea Wood in federal court.
Ah,
Mhm.
it makes you wonder. I don't think anything's fair. We
It's
were taught
beyond fair. It's illegal.
illegal.
Actually,
Well, that tr
yeah.
too, we were talking earlier on the phone, and I had told you that my federal court judge actually told me he didn't even look at my exhibits. And then I had to file a motion the next day to have him read the exhibits. That's pretty bad.
It's ridiculous. It's quite disgusting. Take off
Yes,
your robe. Trade in your judicial robe and just wear a bathrobe and stay at home.
right. Yeah, put the Halloween costume away
Mhm.
and just stay home.
Exactly.
Because the
Exactly.
taxpayers need to know these things are happening to people.
Absolutely. And we need to hold them accountable and apply the laws that exist, apply the laws to these judges. Judges are not above the law, they are not immune. If a judge is acting outside of their official capacity, they are not immune. And that's what the public, we need to know this.
Right. When they're committing fraud,
They're not immune.
they're, yeah.
If you're taking bribes, you're not immune.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
If you're harassing people, violating their due process, you're not immune.
exactly.
Judge Susan Alvarado, which was judge number 4, in her courtroom, I had a bailiff standing over me, next to me, behind me, following me up to speak to the judge, intimidating me. He put one of my supporters out of the courtroom. He tried to put my sister out of the courtroom because they like to isolate you so they
Yes.
can really intimidate you. Now, that is a federal crime. I have the law codes in some of my other writings, but that's actually a federal crime. That's harassment and intimidation. And those are federal laws.
Mhm.
And this bailiff did this at the behest of Judge Susan Alvarado. So I did file a complaint against her. I went to the sheriff's department and I put in a complaint against her. Yeah, you don't get to intimidate people. This is not like The Godfather here.
Yeah.
It's not a movie set. This is real life. You don't get to order a bailiff to follow me around with his gun and intimidate me and
Hmm.
think that's going to be okay. That is unlawful. She should be arrested for that.
Hmm. Hmm. When you left the courtroom, where was this bailiff?
Oh, standing by the door. After he couldn't put my sister out, he realized, I said, no, she's not leaving. He told my friend Nancy to leave or she was going to be arrested. And no one was talking or no one was disrespectful. My guests are very respectful of the courtroom process. So we didn't have any of that. And just to have him standing over me, coming in back of me, standing over me, in front of me, this is what this bailiff was doing in this courtroom with Judge Susan Alvarado. This was to intimidate me and stop me from speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was to stop me from speaking on the record. I mean, the lengths that this judge went to shut me up in her courtroom, it's just wild.
Hmm.
And she's still practicing, and she shouldn't be.
I wish more people would put in complaints
Mhm.
because it could be that 114th complaint. That gets that judge off the bench.
Absolutely, like Judge James Orel. I'm not
Mm.
sure how many complaints he had in his file. I'm not sure, but what he did to me was so egregious. It was so disgusting. I remember being in court telling Judge Orel I didn't have enough money on my welfare link card to buy food for the entire month. He kind of laughed at me. He smirked and laughed and sat back in enjoyment. Mhm.
They're sadistic.
Very evil. There's such a demonic spirited just feel coming from these judges.
Hmm.
They know exactly what they're doing and they take enjoyment. They actually enjoy your suffering.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was in state court and I was, pro se litigant, I was presenting to Judge Robert Sambrook, and he didn't like, I guess, me pointing out what was going on. And he said, "Now you're annoying me. You're annoying me. Do you want me to put you in jail?" And it's like,
Oh, are you serious?
yeah, I have all the transcripts. He would threaten that here and there. It's like,
Yeah, but there's okay, again, that's intimidation,
right,
which is a federal crime. These judges should not be allowed to commit federal crimes in open court and go home to their families and continue to harass people the next day.
right.
We have to stop that. We, the people, we have to put a stop to that. I think instead of complaining with many people, it's such an emotional thing when you're going through court, no matter if it's family court, chancery, whatever court, is very emotional. Um, Instead of just complaining, I think every litigant should look up the law codes and make their complaints a criminal complaint because they are committing criminal acts against us.
Hmm.
So that's something that I encourage. I've become just very aware of how many people are suffering at the hands of, law enforcement, police, um, judges, attorneys. There's so many, we're victimized all the time by these people of power.
Hmm.
So instead of just doing an emotional complaint, I think we have to be smarter about our complaints and we have to look up the law codes and the judicial canons. We have to apply that, putting in writing, and let's hold them accountable. Because if we all did that, we the people, we are mightier as people together than they are.
And people have got to do it, even these court watchers.
Mhm.
And there's like
Absolutely.
a lot of court watchers that will show up on a case.
Mhm.
And I remember in Florida, we were watching, and the pro se litigant was giving her closing arguments, and he just muted her towards the end. Then he just started talking, and it's like, wait a minute. So I had to write him up on that.
Absolutely. That's what we all have to do. We all have to come prepared with our notebooks, take notes, and we have to write these judges up and apply the laws and the judicial canons. We have to do that.
And we have to encourage each other to do that. Like
Mhm.
if you're court watching, if you're
Uh-huh.
friends with some of them, okay, we witnessed this, let's all file a complaint.
Yes, I agree. We have to.
Definitely. So, I don't,
And I look at Judge James Orel, although he was forced to retire, and I'm not going to take the credit for it. I'm not gonna because I don't know. I just know that he blamed me, and I
oh,
know that I put in a lot of complaints with judicial canons and law codes. And I kept complaining when he would do stuff because the man was breaking the law. The man acted as though he was running his own criminal enterprise just on my case alone. He acted like he was just part of it was like a modern day mafia with
oh,
this judge in my case. So I
mhm.
just kept documenting, complaining, and finally he was forced to retire. But the thing is, Judge Orel is still enjoying his pension. He should
Yeah,
not have a pension.
right.
Why does he get to keep his pension? I'm sitting here in a house with utilities being shut off,
Mhm.
no health care. I mean, I've got the state funded, but it doesn't cover some things that I need. So I'm grateful for that.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't have food half the time because I don't get enough on my link card. Um, I can barely go out and leave the house because I don't have fuel for transportation. My life has been altered terribly, but he's still getting his pension, living his normal, happy life. That isn't fair.
Uh-uh.
And during the time he was on my case, I had written up a complaint, and I said he would make sure his dog was fed. He treats me worse than he would treat a dog
Uh-huh.
because he would never let his dog go hungry without utilities, right? Or the meds that they need. He would never allow his dog to go without those things. So the man treated me just like I was less than a dog.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he was offended by that. And I told him, I stand by every word I wrote about
Hmm.
you. I stand by it.
Oh, most definitely.
Mhm.
I remember I wrote up a complaint because it had been bothering me for like 2 years. And I'm always telling other people to complain. So it's like, okay, I'm going to complain now. It's my turn. And I complained on my child support judge because she was out of control with behaviors like she needed a psych bell. Okay, really, honestly, if we
Mhm.
just come down to it.
Mhm.
And so my friend, we sat down and she said, we got to write this up the right way. And so what I also found were other cases that had failed in the Superior Court, right? And one of them was some poor guy who was already in prison for non-support, trying to fight her, try to appeal what she had ruled while in jail. And I thought, this poor man, but I could use that in the complaint.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, okay, so let's do that. And so we submitted that 2 years ago, and we didn't hear anything. But Halloween's my favorite time of the year. And of course, I opened up the mailbox and they said they were investigating her. Now, what I found out, someone told me, was that when they investigate these judges,
Mhm.
judges can't work full time. They only let them work 2 days a week. I don't know if this happens in every state
Mhm.
or with every judge, but it's like it's an embarrassment. Okay. So I thought, great. Okay. So then, the months roll by, and then, one of my relatives turns on the computer and said, hey, guess who's going into retirement? Yeah, that's her. And of course, with her pension. And after how she's treated people very
Mhm.
badly.
Yeah. Her pension should be split up and shared between all her victims.
Oh, I agree. Yes, yes,
And then
totally.
some. There's got
Oh,
to be a bond or something because the pension is it isn't enough to cover all the damages they've done.
no, no. And even the family court judge, even when he passed, oh, they made such a big deal about it in the newspaper and this, it's like he was not honorable.
Exactly. He wasn't
Uh,
honorable, right?
you know, and it was really to read that when he passed, the president judge had said in the newspaper at one time he had full control over his courtrooms.
Hmm.
No, he did not have full control over his courtrooms.
Hmm.
And I was like, really? I mean, that upset me. Even just reading that judge's obituary upset me.
Was this the judge where you were celebrating at the gravesite?
Yeah.
I love that video. I watched
Thank
it multiple times.
It's on YouTube. And the
I
thing
watched it.
was, yeah, because like I said in the video, in the obituary, he called his grandchildren the Magnificent Seven. It's like, no, Judge Sambrook, my two boys were the Magnificent Two, but not to
Absolutely.
you.
Hmm.
He totally,
Absolutely.
right, he twisted my son's words and God dealt with him.
Hmm. Yep.
I just uh I just encourage everyone to complain. We just have to.
Everyone, absolutely. And we have to support each other. There are some people who are so beaten down, they're afraid to complain. They don't know how to formulate the words to complain, um, to get the attention that's needed. I think we have to also educate each other. When you complain,
Mhm.
even though it's emotional, we have to try and leave the emotion out of it and stick to facts and the law codes and the judicial canons, like you said. We
Right.
have to learn how to complain in a smarter way.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
what are some of the things you suggest on getting an investigation of a judge? It's so hard to even get people to look into their actions.
Right. I've always complained on paper.
Mhm.
I've talked to other people that have called the FBI. That's not going to happen.
Mm.
They don't deal with it. They deal with federal. That's what the person told me who was telling me all this.
Okay.
But it's like still, who's policing them? There's no
Right.
oversight. There's no accountability.
Right.
You
But
know,
let's say in a case where you suspect judges are being bribed, they're colluding, and there's multiple judges, like how would one get the FBI to look into that? Because then that would fall under a RICO, Criminal Enterprise Act. So how would you get, the authorities to look into that?
well, I guess what I would do is uh, go down there with parents to the FBI office
Mm-hmm.
and tell them what's going on and also videotape it at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, they don't allow you to videotape there.
Really?
There's a sign that I don't know now. I don't know if
Yeah,
that is the actual law. I have to look because I know there's the First Amendment.
right.
And DuPage County violates that all the time. So
Mhm.
I'll have to look and see if there's some special law that prohibits you from videotaping if you're like at the FBI. I don't know.
Okay, so if you can't do that, you've got, say, maybe three or four, damaged victims of the
Mhm.
same judge, and they're listening to the FBI say, "Oh, there's nothing we can do," or whatever. Okay, so then you all go to a notary and fill out separate affidavits of
I
what the
like that.
FBI said. Why not?
I absolutely like that. You're right.
And then submit that, of course, where's the oversight? But that could go into the judge's judge complaint.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's what I would do. I'm not a lawyer. Okay, people, I don't know.
No,
But
that's actually great. I think all of these things we have to keep trying until something happens.
right,
Yeah, I like that.
right. I always fill out affidavits. They are gold.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have told you a while ago because when I was filing my federal exhibits, and I took them to the opposing attorney's office of Marshall, Dennehy, Warner, Coleman, Goggin, and their brother's relative's niece. So I took a whole bunch over there, and the attorney hauled me into the boardroom and leaned over the table and said, "Look, I can tell you've been to court, but I can tell you how this is going to go. I know both those judges in the federal courthouse, and I'm going to get this case dismissed. And it's pretty much how it's going to go." So I handed him his exhibits and I said, "Have a nice day." Then I walked out and I went to a notary and put that into an
Mm-hmm.
affidavit, submitted it to all parties. So
Mm-hmm.
he got into some trouble. And I also gave it to the Supreme Court Disciplinary Board, where we here in Pennsylvania complain about lawyers. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I had to drop off more exhibits, because I didn't want to make a habit of dropping off, 1,000 exhibits to these people.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there and I gave it to him, and he said, "Well, we're going to talk right out in front here, in front of there's two secretaries."
Uh-huh.
I'm like, these poor women. And so he starts yelling, "I never said those things." And I'm smiling at him. I said, "Yes, you did." He goes, "No, I didn't. I never said that." "Yes, you did. But here's your exhibits. Have a nice day." And I
Wow.
went down in the hall and got on the elevator and went down to my car. And the thing is, people are saying, "Oh, why didn't you record him when he was telling you, about this collusion?" I said, "Well,
Mhm.
I had my stupid phone getting charged in the car.
Oh.
And we're a two-party state. I would have to say, "Hey, do you mind if I record this?" Which he would have shut up then.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm.
So
Wow.
yeah, the affidavits also, when I submitted that complaint on him to the, Supreme Court Disciplinary Board, they gave me the namby-pamby letter you get saying it's
Mhm.
not ethical enough. Oh my God. I'm going, really? So, it bothered me for 2 weeks because I thought, well, how many letters of these are you going to get? So I called there and I talked to a really nice attorney, and he said, can you give us more information? Can you be more detailed in your complaint?
Mhm.
I said, okay. So I sat down and I redid the complaint, and then he really got in trouble.
Good for you.
So persistence does pay
Mhm.
off.
It does. Yep. And that's a good point. Just document it, put it in an affidavit right away,
Right.
not wait, do it right away. That is definitely, I'm putting in that, in my notes because I've done so many sworn affidavits, but I'm going to just make it a point of doing them immediately, filing them.
Right. Even when I'm court watching, I'll take a
Mhm.
complaint and I'll fill it out, and then I'll take it to AAA and they'll notarize it. They do it for free because I guess we belong there, but if you, because it's like, it would be what, $10 for a notary to stamp it and do all that stuff to it. But, it's well worth it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You could take it in your bank and your bank will notarize it for free. As long as
Oh,
it's not anything pertaining to real estate, your bank will
oh.
provide you with notary stamp for free.
Well, that's good for people to know. That's really
Chase,
good.
Chase Bank, Bank of America, free.
Uh, well, good. I'm glad
Hmm.
something is.
Yeah, I
After
know,
what we've paid for in
right?
these, just
Yeah.
terrible,
But yeah,
and
it's just so disheartening how so many judges are ruining lives, and it's all about money. They're taking money, they're committing criminal acts, they're
right,
just ruining people, making people suffer, and they're getting away with it. They're walking around still practicing being on the bench
right,
and collecting pensions.
and
That's got to stop. We got
right.
to stop. They shouldn't have a pension. When you've been caught up and it's, been proven that you're breaking the law, you should lose your ability to collect your pension.
I agree. I hope this all can change. And I'm so glad I had you on. I'm sorry Roy couldn't make it.
Oh, me too. I'm so sorry because he definitely needs to share his story. Poor guy, he's been through a lot.
Yes, yes.
Been through, and a lot of it has been with the same judge, James Orel. And thank
Oh,
God he's been forced to retire, but
yeah,
I don't see why he should keep his pension.
I agree. Right, because his wife is enjoying that pension too when they go on a trip.
Absolutely. His wife is also a judge, by the
Oh
way.
my
She's
gosh.
a judge too. So, they both have ruined so many lives together. Can you imagine that? A
A,
partnership of ruining lives.
a marriage made in heaven or hell. I mean,
Hell.
oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, who knows how they treat each other at home? You know
I
how you know how SHIT rolls downhill,
uh-huh,
right? Onto
absolutely.
us.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I've heard stories. Some attorneys don't like him and they will make comments about him off the record, and I would never repeat who said what. But people think he's a piece of SHIT,
Right.
is what I've heard. And I didn't say I think he's a piece of, I know he's a bad guy and he does unlawful stuff, but his own colleagues think he's a piece of SHIT.
Wow. Wow.
I just want to clarify that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is his brothers that think he's a piece of SHIT.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't say it to his face or out in the open, which is too bad.
Well, God is watching, and
Mhm.
you know, God will deal with these people, And I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, how do you want to be reached? Do you want them to come through me and I can give you messages, or do you want to give your email?
You can give my email. I don't mind being contacted.
Okay. Do you want to tell me what it is for everybody? And I'll put it in the podcast notes.
Absolutely. My email is jackshousinganddevelopment@gmail.com.
Okay. And I will put that in the podcast notes. Jackie, thank you for speaking
Thank
out.
you.
And don't jump off, okay? Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie. You can find me on Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google, Spreaker, and other platforms I don't know about. Again, feel free to buy me a coffee to help keep this podcast going. Thank you, Jackie Sample. I really appreciate you, and I hope this podcast gives other people strength to complain.
Thank you so much for having me.